to have been originally. And then his most important book, I think, was God's Problem, which just came out in, last year. In this problem, in this book, he talks about how he himself had to eventually become a non-believer because he couldn't see how Christianity, or any religion for that matter, could solve the problem of suffering in the world. There was just no way that he could see that religion solves that problem. He talks in this book about the New and Old Testaments and the attempts to answer the problem of suffering, but he never. But the Bible, both testaments fail to satisfy that problem. And that's, of course, been the ancient problem that the religion, especially Christianity, has had, the problem of evil. Now, the way I would summarize it this way is that there's no way we can imagine a beneficent God who has the power to do whatever he wants, allowing the tremendous suffering that exists among humans and animals, for that matter, on this planet. Incidentally, why Darwin became an atheist was not because of evolution, but because his own observation of the terrible suffering of the wildlife. So what purpose, you think there's a purpose behind suffering? What purpose could there be in allowing a child to die an agonizing death from leukemia? I don't think there's anyone in this room who wouldn't prevent that if you could. Well, God can, but he doesn't. So let me mention some of the anti-New Atheist books that were triggered by the New Atheist books. They created quite a bit of reaction, as you can imagine, and there's a huge Christian book publishing industry out there, so a lot of books are produced, and I talk about a lot of them in this book. I don't cover all of them, but they pretty much all say the same thing after you've read about 3 or 4 of them. Here are just some of them: New Atheist Crusaders, The Truth Behind the New Atheism, Irrational Atheism, and so on. The one that I do pay some attention to is this one over here by John Hout, who's the guide to New Atheism. John Hout is a very well-established theologian, very respected, and so I pay a little bit more attention to the things he has to say and try to counter them if I can. Now, if there's any central message of the New Atheism, it's that faith should not be given the respect, even the esteem it obtains in modern society. People of faith are treated with great deference. They're assumed to be persons of the highest moral standards, exemplars of goodness, kindness, and charity. Now, what is faith? Faith is belief in the absence of supportive evidence, and even in the light of contrary evidence. And you wonder how such a frame of mind could be expected to lead to any significant insight, why we should give people who come to decisions based on faith such a respect and authority. Faith should not be treated with such respect, according to our view. It should not be exonerated, but rather disputed. And when damaging to individuals in society, it should be condemned. Now, the New Atheists were all pretty much uniformly criticized for not paying that much attention to theology. Well, none of the books I mentioned are about theology. They're all written from a scientific standpoint. We really don't take theology all that seriously, frankly, and so the battle basically that we're talking about is the battle between science and religion. Now, let's make the distinction. I thought I would start out by showing an example of data from science. This is a very pretty picture. It was taken in that experiment that I worked on that was mentioned in the introduction. It's a Super Kamiokonda, it was called. It was actually under a mountain in Japan. And it was designed to measure neutrinos from outside of the Earth. And this was a picture that was taken of neutrinos from the sun. Now what's interesting, a couple things are interesting about this picture. First of all, this is taken at night. So this is looking through the Earth at the sun on the other side of the Earth, because the neutrinos can go right through the Earth without being detected, being absorbed very much. And so you could say here's evidence that when the sun goes down, it doesn't go away, it's still there on the other side of the Earth. More seriously, it was evidence for the theory that the energy from the sun, which provides the energy for our lives, is produced by means of a certain reaction called the weak nuclear interaction. And that was proof of that. This had been a long-standing theory, and most people believed it, but it was proof that that was what was happening. Now, the difference between science and religion and science is not based on faith. Theists will try to say science is based on faith just like religion. Well, that's just nonsense, because I mean, if faith is belief in the absence of evidence, science is belief in the presence of evidence. When the evidence disagrees with the scientific proposition, the proposition is discarded. Well, you know what I'm going to say? When the evidence disagrees with a religious proposition, the evidence is discarded. Now, theologian John Hout, we mentioned many times now, says that the new atheists have an unjustified faith that the real world is rational. Well, what's the alternative? An irrational world? Being rational just means that when you talk about some subject, the words you use are well defined and the statements that you make are self-consistent. That's all rationality is. How can irrational thinking with ill-defined words and inconsistent statements lead to any credible knowledge? Finally, faith results in the disregarding of important values such as free thinking and objective truth-seeking that are needed to solve the problems of modern society. Indeed, they are needed for our very survival. Now, the reason we trust science and have no trust whatsoever in religious arguments is that science and reason have a track record of enormous success in understanding the world and making it a better place for humanity. By contrast, the track record of religion is a dismal failure and untold human suffering. Science works. Science flies us to the moon. Religion flies us into buildings. The new atheists strongly disagree with many scientists, including the majority of the National Academy of Sciences, which is the elite scientific group in this country. And incidentally, a study that was made a few years ago showed that the members of the National Academy of Science, only 7% of them believe in a personal God. So they're mostly atheists, and yet they have tried to keep science and religion separated. They said that science has nothing, they've made statements that science has nothing to say about God or the supernatural. No, we dispute that because the gods most people worship, as I said, play such an important role in their lives and in the universe. They should produce observable phenomena. And it's the observable phenomena that science studies. It's not the nature. We don't study the nature of this God. That's metaphysics. But we study what the God would produce in the way of observable facts that we could look and study. And there are examples of that.